All right, I call the meeting to order, Finance Committee meeting to order on Saturday, October the 1st. It is now 8:37. And first item on our agenda is approval of our June 15, 2022 meeting regarding transfers for FY22. I have the minutes in front of me, if everybody has them. Take a minute to look at them, make sure there's no omissions or corrections. If none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Carries unanimously, 4 in the affirmative.
I wasn't here, just to be clear.
Oh, you
so-
weren't? You were not here. Okay, then one exemption for three
Yep.
In the approval. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion on the special town meeting warrant. I think everybody should have the articles and the explanation of same in front of them. First article, to see if there are any reports. There's no action needed from committees, from our committee. The second article, however, the town recommends a vote of transfer of available funds to appropriate the sum of money to pay for unpaid bills for prior fiscal years and therein. And the amount is $2,135, and it was for veteran services, and it was for a year of 2018, prior to our current Veterans Administrator. And it would be coming out of the budget, which is for veterans benefits for FY23 is $205,000, up from a year prior of 11. So there's money in the budget to cover the $2,135. That being said, if there's any other questions on it, I would entertain a motion to recommend.
I make motion to recommend.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion on this article as to the purpose and the funding and the source? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries unanimously. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to amend the Oxford General Bylaws, Chapter 51, Regulation of Dogs, Section 2, Fees, subsection A and B, by deleting and striking through the text and inserting in the bold underlined text as set forth as follows. Striking $10 and adding $15 for spaded female and neutered males, and $10 and striking $6 and adding 10. And further vote to recommend that the Oxford General Bylaws, Chapter 61, Regulations pertaining to cats, Section 1, General Requirements, subsection 1 and 2, by deleting and striking through the text and inserting the bold underlined text set forth. Spaded and neutered cats, $10, striking out the 6 per cat license for any period therein or portion of. And all other cats, $15, striking out 10 per cat license period or any portion thereof. So what this is an increase in fees from 10 to 15 on dogs, and 6 to 10, and 6 to 10 on cats, and 10 to 15 on all other cats. So any questions on those fee increases?
Is this just to bring us more in line with the surrounding communities?
Exactly. If you look at it's an odd number, $6 to begin with, and it tells you that back then, I think it probably was an amount that has been sitting there. Our town clerk has reviewed other communities. It doesn't even cover really, truly the cost of processing. And this wouldn't, you have to remember, we process all the way along for even people who have not paid their licenses as well. So, but for a regular license to be paid, it truly is. It's a few dollars more, but one, it actually puts it in whole numbers, which is a good thing. And two, it is to make it more in keeping with other area communities and to at least try to cover a little bit more of the processing costs.
The town clerk mentioned that everything is going up, as we know the cost of everything, and even just the tags.
Yes.
She said those prices are increasing, so it's also to help cover the increasing cost of everything.
In the notification to individuals who don't pay, and also eventually sending out for the collection of those fees. It's all it's all something that
Labor-intensive.
never really gets covered by that.
Right.
But completely, but at least this will help defray some of those small inflationary things related to the standard processing of licenses.
Any other questions or comments? If none, do I hear a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously to recommend. Okay. Next article. Article 4, see if the town will vote to raise by taxation or transfer available funds the appropriate sum of money to the capital stabilization fund or act thereupon. The capital stabilization fund is similar to the stabilization fund. It's a rainy day fund appropriated from the capital stabilization fund. It may be only used on major capital projects and purchases. This fund was created in 2019 at the annual meeting. Having a healthy reserve positively impacts the town's bonding rating. The transfer of these funds from free cash is the plan under Article 4. This article would not affect the tax rate. And the motion is to approve a transfer of $100,000 to be transferred from free cash and appropriated to the capital stabilization funds for fiscal 2023. Any comments or questions? I'll backdraft just for a second and let everybody know, since we're talking to free cash, Katie, and congratulations, Katie was very judicious in getting free cash already certified by the state. So going into this year, we're looking at $3,178,740 in free cash. So it would be coming from that amount. Okay, the sewer surplus account was $250,875, and the water surplus account this year going in was $297,930. So she was able to get early on, so we now know. So we're not too far off from where we were last year at $3,400,000. We're at $3,178,000 as far as free cash goes going into this year. Just want to let everybody know that where we are fiscally in that regard. So, any questions on Article 4? If none, do I hear a motion to recommend?
Make a motion to recommend.
Or a second?
Second.
All right. Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, carries unanimously, Article 4. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise by taxation or transfer available funds the appropriate a sum of money for unforeseen energy-related expenses. An act thereupon sponsored by the town manager, finance director, and DPW. Energy costs, utilities, and fuel have significantly increased from the time when the department heads submitted their fiscal 2023 operating budget requested from the town meeting and voted and approved on this said budget. Supplemental funds will allow the finance director and the town manager to cover shortfalls in energy-related line items. And the request is to move a sum of $200,000 to be raised from taxation or the appropriation and be appropriated for the unforeseen energy-related expenses. So this money would be coming from our budget. And we're hoping that there's, money in the budget would.
Well, yeah, so the
explain
levy,
source.
yeah, we have about 296,000 right now in levy capacity, and that's not including new growth. New growth usually comes in higher, we estimate it conservatively.
Around
So,
300.
but I don't have those figures yet, so I expect we will still end up with levy capacity even if we use this. This is a result of, we had increased receipts this year, as you can see by the free cash figure. Motor vehicle tax came in much higher than anticipated, and a couple other line items as well. So I had to increase that for next year because we can't keep it so low if we're seeing the receipts come in. And additionally, we estimated the state receipts, the state aid at the governor's figures, and we saw about an increase of close to 100,000 with the subsequent revisions of that. So that's where that levy is coming from.
So that money would come, and then, and as a note of, I think, isn't October the 8th, we have an auction going on for 3 properties in the community right now that are behind in their taxes. So a tax title auction going on, and obviously that would go to, I guess, free cash.
Yes.
For next
So
year,
For
right?
next
Yeah.
year. So we do have capacity in the levy currently for this 200,000.
Is this largely from motor vehicles, or is it buildings as well? Like, also electricity is?
So the energy cost, you're asking? So overall, energy costs have gone up.
Well, electricity especially,
Electricity has
yeah.
gone up. We have been talking to our aggregation partners, and actually, very many months ago, had worked closely with our partners in aggregation and the other two communities. We have both Charlton and Millbury, at looking at trying to tie in as early as possible because of the Ukrainian war, as well as the overall inflationary aspects. There was a definite trend, and we were being advised by all of these partners to try to take advantage of, costs related to aggregation. We're part of the aggregation as well, the town is. We have some ability to sort of address that by getting into a fixed cost per kilowatt. However, with everything that has gone up, energy costs related to electricity, to fuel, to all of those things, and we don't know where winter will be and how much snow we'll get and how much fuel will be used, and that includes, powering our schools and all of that. So it is there as a way to try to help us prevent departments from having to sort of cannibalize all of their resources to pay for energy costs and then have nothing at the end. So this is just to provide the cushion. Remember, if we don't use something, it goes back into.
Well, that's actually
Yeah.
what I wanted to mention, is that this is an appropriation account, so it's good for 5 years. And in our former financial policies, we didn't carry it over to our current financial policies, but they used to require this energy contingency fund. And it was an appropriation account that was available for 5 years, and they wanted a certain percentage of the operating budget for it. We took it out because I think it's a good idea to have, but I don't think we have to formalize it.
Always.
So we're kind of just going back to the spirit of, what the town had before, and it's probably when we went through a
The
similar
recessions.
similar energy crisis. So we had a couple of articles left that did roll into free cash, so I figured this was the right time to take that and put it into this, and we can carry it again for 5 years. So if we don't use it,
It's
we'll
there.
have it for other years when we have, if we have a shortfall.
So this is all the buildings in town?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Schools too, yes,
All right, so I noticed it, okay,
yeah.
all right, that makes sense.
And I remember the chairman saying during our last budgeting meetings, was asking everyone about the heating costs and whether or
Yes,
not we were
he has.
accounting
Right,
for
and
energy.
as you remember, we just approved the minutes of June 15th.
Yes.
And part of
Yeah.
that was legal
Yeah.
expenses, and the other was fuel to top off the tanks
Yep.
before
Yep.
the energy. Now, that's come down, but they're predicting that if the war continues or some other things happen, it'll go back up. So nobody knows, and all the experts, all the economists, no one knows where we're headed.
Yeah,
So this is prudent to
is.
because what would happen, the DPW would have to cannibalize, like
Right.
town manager said, and that would be maybe layoffs.
Right.
That would be maybe not buy supplies, not do routine maintenance that needs to be done to maintain the vehicles. And if we have heavy snowfalls, they're gonna be on the road more often, using more fuel. So there's a lot of different, it's not just electricity, it's fuel too. So it's an unknown that we're trying to get ahead of, I guess is best said.
And just for the edification of the committee, we are and have been for the last 3 years taking bold steps to try to become more energy efficient and have for the third year and just recently received notice. I don't know if you had maybe heard at one of my board meetings in the month of August, I had articulated that we received another $200,000 for Green Communities Grant Program, which will allow us to finish off the 2 elementary schools. We've only done half, not just for lighting, but for weatherization, and it'll also go towards the weatherization efforts at the fire headquarters and also the library. So those will all help for future, but it's not just that we're asking because we're in this predicament. We are trying to take other steps to help with that. And because of, I think, this committee's understanding that we were already starting into an inflationary mode, it set the management in a direction to say, okay, where our overall price is going to be in terms of locking into some of these aggregation programs. And so we've already locked into gas at a rate that was actually less than the prior 3 years. I was actually in a hospital and talking with them to lock us into that rate because it was an unbelievable rate. And they were concerned that if I couldn't do it, because sometimes when they go out to market, you have a very limited time in which to lock into those rates. So we have for that. And we've also done that for our aggregation, which they're predicting some of the kilowatt hours upwards for electricity costs in the 20 cents range.
And we're at
And we're at 10.
10.
So they've
10.9,
never
yeah.
seen these kinds of kilowatt pricing, but it all has to do with the gas issues, particularly in Europe, and overall steady inflation. So I think we're in a really good position. This is just a good, prudent, conservative measure. It will help us as we figure out how we're gonna go through the rest of the year.
Yeah, so we're trying to cut our use with the weatherization and the LED lights on the one side, and we're hedging our costs on the other side, and we're hoping for the best, but nobody seems to know where we're headed at this point. So, any other questions? If none, do I hear a motion to approve the transfer of this $100,000?
200.
$200,000, thank you. I'm looking at the other one, $200,000.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries unanimously. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer by taxation or transfer of available funds from available funds the appropriate sum of money for the unemployment compensation fund pursuant to the Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, subsection 5E, or act thereupon. This is the unemployment compensation fund was previously established, which allows the town to carry forward funds from one year to the other to reimburse the Commonwealth to satisfy incurred unemployment liabilities. This article seeks to make a sizable appropriation into the fund because the Oxford Public School District received numerous pandemic-related grants to support the temporary increase of staffing for several years. At the conclusion of the grant funding, there will be some reductions in workforce resulting in an unanticipated number of unemployment claims. Some claims may carry over to fiscal year 2024. By appropriating into the unemployment compensation fund, the town will have the flexibility it needs to cover these liabilities, as this article would transfer that. And we're looking for $250,000 to be transferred from free cash, not from taxation, into the workman's comp, to the unemployment fund. And that's, I don't know if you, that's one of the indirect costs the town pays for the school. I mean, we pay their health care. It's not part of their budget, it's on our budget. We pay their unemployment. There's a number of of indirect costs that totals over $6 million in indirect cost that's on our side of the budget that we pay for the school, in addition to their direct costs that we pay. So just enlighten everybody of where the money is going, so to speak. So, any questions on what we're proposing here to come from free cash?
So this is coming from free cash because it says by taxation or transfer.
I think, yeah, I think the target is for free cash. Am I right, Katie?
I think that might have been the one.
I'm sorry, let me look at it again,
Yeah.
because maybe, no, this says free cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That might have been an older version
Yeah.
of our
Okay.
working document that we have in there, and I apologize if that hadn't been updated.
Well,
but-
also, if you're looking at
Yeah.
5, it says I move be raised from taxation, but then if you go down to the next page, the motion is
Yeah.
for free cash.
Free cash.
And free cash is a one-time source, so, and this is kind of a one-time situation as well, and this fund will carry over year to year. We normally appropriate into the budget, so we have a budget amount, but this will be able to go from year to year outside of the budget and be used for these essentially unforeseen costs related to people staff being hired within grants and then having to leave when the grant expires.
The grant was for 3 years. Now, the hope from the school department is that through attrition and retirement, some of these, more of these temporary, or that were temporary, will become permanent and replace the retirees. However, side note, we also, part of our indirect costs are we pay the retirement benefits of the employees. So it's kind of like we go down from one line to the other line, so it goes from here to here as far as indirect costs go. But that was some of their hope, that they could retain some of, if not all of, I think the number was 25 teachers that they brought on.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of getting additional grant funding from other sources to retain,
I
retain their
think
employees?
the amount of grant funding that came through because of the pandemic was unprecedented.
Well, yeah.
We're talking millions of dollars, and it was to try to help really give kids, a platform in which to try to spring off of after having been out of school for so long, and giving that intensive, as much as possible, one-on-one curricular development. And I think the attention there has been to really supplement staff. But as far as being able to carry that over from year to year, it would be beyond, more than likely, our entire levy capacity to keep that going. And I think schools are, in general, trying to adjust to eventually, gradually weaning away from that supplemental money. However, as always, every time we do a budget, there are always going to be recommendations coming from the school board and the superintendent for where they would like to put more resources. And so I think that's what they're working on. I will say that both Katie and Justin Ledoux, our business manager at the school department, have worked with both myself and the superintendent, bringing us together with the acknowledgement that this was on the horizon, and that we're gonna work together for that. It's not like we're just left out to say, fix it on our own. There is a partnership there, and an understanding that, they are trying to work with us so that we don't get into a predicament where all of a sudden, the school department, before the start of a fiscal year, when these grant funds sunset, that all of a sudden we're left kind of high and dry without having estimated it. So I have confidence that the school board and the superintendent will continue to make recommendations in their budget that will, I think, help supplement some of that money that has already been provided by the federal government and the state, and continue to provide, excellent services and programs for the kids
Yeah.
and
They had
teachers.
They had reduced class sizes down to about, on average, about 13.
That's great.
To get the kids back on track and back into the fold, so to speak, and boost them from being out of school for the period that they were. The other issue, of course, is they're still in labor negotiations with the teachers, so there's a whole bunch of dynamics that are moving. But this is prudent, I think, in light of all the things that we've just said, to take this money from free cash, and if we don't spend it, it comes back to free cash.
Yep.
So it's just to get ahead of it, have it there, and then it carries over, as Katie said, the prior years. So it's not money that we're just expending. It's on a need basis. And we keep our fingers crossed as to how big the need is. So, any other comments, questions, or if none, do I hear a motion to recommend?
Make a motion?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Article 6. Article 7. Let's see here. Article 7, where am I at here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Appropriate funds. I'm going to turn around here. Let's see if the town will vote to raise by taxation or transfer from available funds and appropriate the sum of money to supplement the town's fiscal year 2023 operating budget, finance departments / informational technology, as approved by the vote taken under Article 10 on the May 4, 2022 annual meeting or the act thereupon. This is sponsored by the town manager, finance director, and public safety chiefs. Explanation: this article is intended to supplement the IT budget, which is within the finance department's budget. Recent quotes from a budgetary item related to the police and fire software cost were higher than anticipated. Additionally, there have been some unexpected increases in software costs, Microsoft Office being one of the major increases. I move that the sum of $50,000 to be raised from taxations and appropriated to supplement the informational technology budget within the finance department for fiscal year 2023. So this would be coming again from taxation. As Katie explained, we're under the levy. So it's for $50,000. Is any thoughts, comments, or questions on what the purpose of this? Katie, you want to speak to it? I think you know.
Well, actually, I'd just like to say, I thought this was, I went to a quick, kind of seminar might be the wrong word, but a demonstration with our IT company that services our police and fire. And they are showing a platform that they've developed to take the state software that the police and fire use and make it in the cloud. So it's kind of revolutionary, really. And the police and fire seem to be very excited about this. So this is a very, very new thing that they want to get into. The alternative would be spending about $100,000 on new servers.
So you take the server cost and the maintenance cost of servers, put it in the cloud, and then it's cross.
And it's a monthly cost now for the cloud, for this
And
cloud
then
service.
they
maintain it.
the- whatever the newest
Right.
iteration is of the technology.
Well, so the software itself is a separate cost to the state, but
Server.
the ability to keep it in the cloud is a cost we'll pay monthly as opposed to replacing servers, every 5
maintaining
years
them.
or so, and maintaining them, that's correct. So I thought this was,
Platform too, so there's a sharing between the states, so everything up in the cloud, the fire, the police, they all have this.
well, and then if
cross-brand.
something happens, they're able to take, a laptop and log in and move around. They can, if something happens to the building itself, they can still have emergency services. So it was, it was really a great presentation, and I know that the police and fire really would like to move forward, but where I've had already cost overruns this year, particularly with Microsoft Office, they had some kind of change where they had a price increase. I don't know the particulars and the details in that, but it was on both sides, police and town side, that we had these increases, as well as every other software cost, just like everything else that's going up. So my budget's really tight there in the IT section. So I want to make sure we can do this and do it, because otherwise we're faced with, a
bigger
capital
cost.
request for $100,000. So,
And then you have to maintain them going forward. It's a never-ending battle maintaining servers.
right.
I've done that. We moved to the cloud. One of the things you're talking about, having everything up in the cloud, especially for emergency services, the redundancy. We had everything on the cloud out in New Jersey, and then they had a corresponding mirror, if you will, of the cloud out in LA. So depending on if there was a hurricane,
right.
the East Coast and that New Jersey site was hampered or taken out of commission, it automatically transferred to the LA side, the West Coast. So there was that mirroring and redundancy. So there was a cloud, if you will, in a cloud, so that you never were without a service or software. It was a mirror thing, and we did that about, I don't know, 10 years ago.
I think the other thing for the committee to think about here is, for our public safety, in particular our police, there's a lot of capacity that's used up quickly because of videoing, because of detailed
Imaging.
digitalizing of records. So the server capacity gets used up pretty quickly in comparison to some other
And you have to
areas.
archive all that stuff, so.
Right.
even-
Oh, yeah, you can't
so
get rid of
even though
it.
So it builds up real quickly. So the cloud is there and it expands. The cloud, it gives you room to expand, and they keep it current with all the new technology coming out. You don't have to go to school again the second time, so
Yeah,
it's
so they
nice to offshore that.
They will have a server
Yes.
on site
Yes.
for those
Yes.
other storage that, the, what you mentioned, the video and such. But this is just particularly for their software that runs, the public safety aspect of public safety.
Do we know which provider they're using? Is it like AWS or someone?
So the software provider itself, I think that's CGIS.
Who do they
That's
use for
that's the
cloud?
state. The
AWS
cloud.
or
So the
Oracle?
cloud itself, like I said, it's our IT company that we have. It's Worldband. So they
okay.
have come
It's
up
their
with
own.
this. Yeah, this is their.
Proprietary.
Yes, yes. So this is, it's kind of big for them because every community has the same software from the state.
Right.
So, we would, I think Millbury was there as well. So we would be kind of piloting this program, but they were very excited about it.
Any other
Interesting.
thoughts, comments, or questions regarding this? If not, do I hear a motion to recommend?
Yeah, so moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Recommending? Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I'm in the software industry.
Okay. Mark? Yes? Yeah. All right, one abstention, 3 in the affirmative for recommendation. All right, Article 8. To see if the town will vote to adopt the provision of the Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 22G, to authorize the allocation of all funds received from fines assessed for violations of handicap parking in the town of Oxford to the Commission of Disability, or act thereupon. So any handicap parking violations, I think last year the total parking fines were only about total parking fines, not handicap, were $785.
Right.
Right.
Don't know how much of that would be attributable to handicap parking.
It was nominal. It was,
And then it would go to the commission, and I don't know what the purpose of, or what they would use the money for. I'm sure that you can
Sure.
speak to.
I mean, the part of statute that they would be looking to adopt, and this is important to the Commission on Disability, so I'm here sort of advocating on behalf of the chairwoman, Deb Lamarche. Having met with them, and they had also met with the police chief as well. Some other communities have been very successful in actually helping to create a program that becomes, revenue-oriented for mainly programs that they're restricted to use these funds for. Looking at access barrier removals, education, looking and seeking to assist with outreach to those with disabilities. They are looking at this as not something that is a cash cow. But if you look, and I think I provided you with, I thought I did anyway, with some, maybe I did not, just background information, and I'll forward it to you. You can look at other communities that do have retail establishments and the like. And what has happened is it raises awareness first with our police force. And then what it does is they work in partnership to understand why it is important for the department to think about making sure that those places are accessible to those who need it. There's a lot of people oftentimes who have a handicap placard doesn't even belong to them. And so these other communities have been successful in creating this kind of program that actually then turns around and helps fund those people who go around and look for those people who are violating the handicap laws for parking. So, it may not be money now, but what it does is it typically raises awareness. The commission starts to work with the police department and the chief, and then they start to look at, okay, where can we target? And, most of it is for the large retail operation areas, but there may be some other opportunities to do this. Now, remember, the whole point of this is education for people who may be violating the law and preventing people who need those spots from parking. It also acts as a deterrent overall. And most of the time, it's not the local folks that are doing this. It may be visitors from outside who are making a mad dash to Home Depot for something, and they don't want to park in the back of the parking lot. And so, that's the kind of people that we want to deter from doing that repeatedly. So it may not be a lot of money right now, but if you look at some of these other communities, and I'm sorry, I will have it forwarded to you, you can see that actually has been very successful. They can use it for assistive technology. They can use it for hosting forums for those people who are challenged with disabilities, whether in the workplace or at home. And so I think it it is important to the commission, just so you know. And one of the things I will add is I recently had applied in August for a grant to update our ADA transition plan. And I was just informed last week that we are getting that money. It's over $45,000 to help us take a 1994 plan that has buildings that we don't even have anymore in existence on it. So this is something that the commission is going to work on over time with our facilities, with myself. So I'm very excited. I've tried 4 times for a different grant program in the state. We weren't successful, but for best practice compact grant, we just were successful for that. So I think between that and something like this, it raises the awareness. Remember, we didn't have a commission on disability 3 years ago. We do now. And that was because it was a priority.
If you didn't have that committee, you wouldn't have been able to apply for any grant.
On this particular front, you're right, because the Mass Office for Disability, but this grant that I'm getting is not coming from them. We're applying for a project grant still. Actually, yesterday, the director for Planning and Economic Development and I met a 5 o'clock deadline to try to see if we can once again apply and hope that we'll get some kind of funding for the ongoing, large-scale accessibility project at Jocelyn Park.
Yeah.
So keep your fingers crossed. We're hoping we get something for that. But in any rate, it shows that we're paying attention to this. It is a priority for me. I'm very sensitive to some of the members wanting to really raise awareness, and quite frankly, it's very legitimate, and we need to do some work on a lot of aging infrastructure, from our ramps to our doorways to a number of areas where, in the past, we just said, nobody's really in charge of that. Now, so we have people now who are helping us. So I would recommend that the committee support this, because it does have revenue implications, but revenue implications tied appropriately with a public entity that already exists that could use this to benefit the work that they seek to do.
And since it's nominal, it's not taking away from our
No.
ability to build our budgets, because it does go to, these fees do go to local receipts, which is part of our budget. But it's so nominal, it's not going to affect our budget.
Any other comments or questions on this article? If none, do I hear a motion to recommend?
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor? To recommend? Aye. Carries unanimously. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise by taxation or transfer from available funds the appropriate sum of money to fund the cost associated with updating the town website or act thereupon.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh so much.
Improving public communications is both an administrative and a policy goal. The town's last update to the existing website was many years ago. The current site does not have many user-friendly technology features that exist on newer website platforms. The town manager has applied for a grant to help offset some of the redesign consultant costs associated with and associated license renewal fees, and was recently informed that the town will receive the Best Practice Community Compact Grant for $38,000 to be applied towards a total estimate cost of $88,000. So the request is to move the difference of $50,000 to be transferred from free cash, again, free cash, and to be appropriated for updating the town website. Any comments or questions on that? Town manager, would you like to speak to
Oh,
any?
I'm just excited that we have some money to offset it. I mean, that came in last week too. I mean, it's just like, almost like Christmas last week. No, I mean, it is I think, a common goal for all of us, and, our website right now is tolerable, right?
Yeah.
But we want to encourage more staff to have it be much more intuitive and easier to actually make changes.
It's so not easy.
It's so not easy. And then there are a lot of new applications that we don't have, features that would actually help with not just accessibility, but also in terms of transparency. And, it's not that we don't use our website to the best of our ability. We do, and there's a lot of information that's on it. But that intuitiveness of being able to find things quickly or to make those changes means that sometimes it's more prohibitive to other people being able to keep things more current and updated. So that's why, I mean, it's not cheap to do this. I mean, people just think, oh, well, just hire some, local person. You have to take everything that's embedded already in that website, which, goes back years and years. And a lot of that is very expensive to transfer. So our hope is it would work with, the existing vendor, but, now that we're looking at the types of features that they have and what we'd like to do. So this will be a number of months. That's why I want to get it going. And I wanted to get it, as part of the fall, town meeting. And if we weren't going to be successful here, it was going to be part of our capital plan. So the fact that we do have some money to offset it, that's wonderful. That's
And you
at
got
least for the,
money,
yeah, the web design and stuff. And the other money would be for features
Right.
that are additional costs. And there are additional costs to actually build into our website, and there are additional costs to keep and maintain on renewal fees. So,
I noticed that you can sign up for agendas for various committees and have the agendas emailed to you. So say if I wanted the agenda of the planning board or the Board of Selectmen for their next meeting, I could have that, in other words, that will be sent to my email. Once that agenda is posted, there are little features, I'm using that as as an example. You already have that, but you're gonna build beyond that, so there's a little more userability, so to speak, from a citizen standpoint, to be alerted to things that are going on within the community. It's a push-pull type thing where it's automatic if you plug into it.
Sure. I mean, what we will be doing over a number of months is I'll convene a stakeholder group that will include both residents, board committee members, and a lot of staff, because they're the ones who also have to be able to use the existing platforms so that we actually make changes to. So I think if we put all of those stakeholders together, we'll get a good product and hopefully, something that will be lasting for a period of time before the next major, changes and features come out. But that is the world we live in. I mean, people are demanding, easier access to things. They sometimes look at what they have in their own employment and they say, why can't we just have that in, the public realm? But the public realm has a lot of things that are very different that have to be, placed a certain way, and the requirements are not always the same. And so I think that's what we have to be mindful of. But if we have a good committee, I think we can get a good product. And again, like I said, this is a common goal for a number of people, and it's a management priority, so I would ask the committee to support that.
Thoughts, comments on this article? If none, I hear a motion to recommend.
So moved.
I hear a second.
Second?
All in favor of recommending? Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Okay. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or upon such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deem appropriate for the general municipal purposes, the fee or lesser interest in all or a portion or portions of the parcel of land now or formerly owned by South Ford Realty Trust, as shown on Assessor's Map 32A.
33A.
Over here. Parcel C14 and parcel C50, as described in the deed recorded with the Worcester District Registry of Deeds, Book 35870, page 296, and to raise by taxation, transfer from available funds a sum of money as funding for each acquisition and all cost incidental or related thereupon, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and to execute on behalf of the town any and all instruments as may be necessary to convene and effective the purchase of the said article or thereupon. So explanation, acquiring this property is important to the town, being able to advance some of the objectives associated with open space and recreational plans, tourism efforts, and economic development goals. One of the parcels is blighted with a small building that is not being maintained. However, the property has great potential to be repurposed as a small visitor center, a business pop-up location, recreation and educational area, and/or a bicycle destination with ties to Oxford's multimodal complete street prioritization plan. So this parcel is located on Charlton Street. It abuts the French River. If anybody goes down Charlton Street going towards Charlton, it's on the right. It used to be a nursery. It used to be a nature center. I mean, it morphed into, and the two parcels are on both sides of the river. The side of that parallels Charlton Street, and then the other side of the river. So it's two parcels of land on the river, and it could be a bike tying into the trail network. It goes all the way down to Webster. It could be a kayak, or it used to be a launch pad at one point for canoes and kayaks. That could be resurrected if some of the waterways are made more navigable. But so I think everybody has a picture of what we're talking about here. It's a great opportunity. I don't know if I think the current owner is agreeable.
Yes, just to give you a little background, and then I'll let our Director for Planning and Economic Development speak to it as well, and also enlighten you that the Planning Board did take this article up as well and considered it, and he'll tell you what that outcome was. But yes, I've had discussions with the current owner, and one of the things that I was quite pleased to hear is that the amount that we're talking about is probably somewhere in the order of about 80,000, and we've built in a little bit more cost for appraisal and also for the legal costs that would be associated with acquiring a property, deed and title searches, those kinds of things. But they were looking really just for, less money than what they paid, only because they look at this as something that will be beneficial to the future for the town, and the hopes of perhaps naming an area for the total acquisition as a small park area in honor of their spouse, which I thought was really quite nice. So it is somebody who's been a local resident for a long time, somebody who thinks that this is it the right time to think about, offering this to the town. Now, the one thing I will tell you is we don't know exactly what we're going to do with this property, but we do know that we have some great ideas. And I think Tony can talk about it in terms of the economic development piece of it, in terms of how that helps the community with tourism and the like. But there's also great recreational potential and educational potential with this site. Now, this is both, and he'll go over there's really two parcels that we're talking about that are adjoining one another, but there's also the indication coming from the current property owner that they have a larger portion of the land across Charlton Street that they're looking to donate to the town. And that in and of itself will be very important as we go forward to thinking about the potential of creating what was a past railroad into a bike trail. And that is a much bigger discussion for a different day, but it is something that you have to start to lay the groundwork. So think of this as the first piece of the puzzle, and what we hope that even with not having all of those other definitive pieces in place, this is how you start to build those and build energy and excitement around it. And Tony can talk about a grant that we've also put out there to help potentially offset some of the costs related to this. We haven't heard from that grant source, but obviously we take a blighted property and try to transform it. That costs money as well. So this is purely the acquisition. But Tony, I'll let you kind of
Sure.
speak to that if you don't mind.
Sure. And good morning, everyone, and
Morning.
pleasure to be here. Pleasure to talk about this particular article. It's very unique, presents a unique opportunity for the town to consider. Certainly, as the town manager mentioned, the tremendous impacts it will have on the open space network potentially in the short term and certainly in the long term. As you, Mr. Chairman, mentioned, the potential connectivity ultimately, as if this should move forward and develop out with connection to all the other open space opportunities active right now, and maybe others in the future that this will link up to. With respect to the economic development piece, I'm particularly interested and excited about this too, because in the longer term, and if this gets incorporated within our open space plan and think about a larger trail network, we're able to connect to some of the largest employers in town as well, and also some of the housing clusters that we have within our community also. So I think it's a great opportunity. At the planning board meeting Monday night, the planning board gave a favorable recommendation for all these reasons, and particularly also, especially for its land use and the ability to redevelop this parcel and the adjacent property, which abuts all along the French River. And planning board saw that as a tremendous opportunity, again, for open space, but also to this other component too of economic development, connectivity to also housing, our housing clusters, our business community, and hopefully in long term, a great regional project too.
That's right in everybody's backyard, literally.
Exactly.
And take the Mid-States Trail would connect to them. You could go all the way down from Auburn, all the way through Webster into Dudley whether you're on bike or you're on a canoe or a kayak, whether you're on the river or parallel to the river, and the opportunity there is huge. And this would be a centerpiece, and then working with the public utilities and some of the other stakeholders that have property that are agreeable to using, donating or allowing use of their right-of-ways to tie all this in. So this would be huge for all, not just our community, but all the communities along the French River in that corridor on the Mid-State Trail. So this would be a centerpiece of that.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add one last thing? Is that obviously those people who are interested in open space, recreation, and conservation, obviously it's near water, it is land, and it is ripe for recreating. So our conservation agent has been very pivotal in creating this vision, working with a number of volunteers out in the community. But we all know that when we start to talk about the magnitude of putting this puzzle together, it requires the support of the municipality. It really does, and all of the different boards that will be involved in this. So this is, like I said, a very exciting. It will be a journey that we'll all make together, and I believe that the way that we can be successful is by having all of us partner together and not just leave it as a volunteer vision that started, and we will need to have the support of the municipality as we go forward. That is what the largest funding agencies will look for. That's what the federal government will look for when we start talking about larger pieces that aren't going to be this smaller acquisition. But having said as much as that, I'll let Tony talk about the Rural Assistance Grant Program that would actually tie into this acquisition that may be helpful to us. Again, we typically, both Tony and I, typically don't start a project unless we can look and see, is there a way to help offset some of that funding, even if it's an important municipal project. And this was one that had come by my desk, and I asked him to do a little bit more research. He did, and did a marvelous job in helping pull that grant application together, so we're still keeping our fingers crossed for that. But you can't always wait for that to happen. You make these steps. Matter of fact, when we make these steps, oftentimes those funding agencies do want to help you because they see that the community supports it. But I'll let him talk about that.
And I will say, with special thanks to Judy Lochner, our conservation agent, we spent quite a while, actually right up here, putting that application together. But that grant, the Rural Assistance Grant, was a unique opportunity for the town. It was a grant opportunity that we were not eligible in prior years, but presented itself due to changes in our census numbers and demographics, opened up an opportunity that we could tap into funding. And it is promising. Certainly think that we have a very strong application. Certainly have the network and support to put such an application together. And we hope that this year we do get word favorably on that. However it may be, there's also other opportunities for funding that we do have planned and lined up as well, not only for year one, but throughout. Whatever it needs to, should again this be looked upon favorably by the town voters, we'll be able to do whatever we need to do to execute.
Judy had presented to the Master Plan Committee, Implementation Committee, a few months back,
Right.
A whole master plan of all these networks and bringing the trails together and working with the Army Corps of Engineers and the other stakeholders, the utility companies, and it encompassed, like I said, the community of Auburn all the way through Dudley. And we spent a couple of hours going over what they've already have a plan, or a vision, I should say, of how all this stuff could come together, and of course they would be the oversight of doing it correctly and making sure that everything was all the bells and whistles and I's and T's were crossed and dotted. So they would be the oversight on this, but this would be great. I think it's an opportunity. It's things don't come along like this that often. This is a perfect spot for to link all this stuff together, and the visibility's there, and there's parking there for access, so it's great. And I've already noticed, because I traverse that road multiple times a day, they've already started, I don't know if it's the Oxford Business Association, they've already started cleaning up the site. So they're already over there now cleaning up what was there from prior use and making the site habitable on their own. So there's a lot of volunteerism that would carry this even further than what we're envisioning. They're step up to the plate. Any thoughts, comments, or
I have a comment and a thought, a question. Big fan, love this kind of stuff. My wife and I use this on Cape, you know, these trails and any of this stuff is great. As a business perspective, a lot of, down there, a lot of businesses will set up, especially if they're on a road, they'll open their back so that the
Pop-ups.
bike trails can have business and you just go to the restaurant and everything's great. You mentioned there was another piece across the river. Is there access to that piece? Is that something we'd have to do?
No, there is some access. It's primarily wetland though,
Right.
primarily wetland, but there is opportunity for access.
I mean, if there were picnic tables or something like that,
Yeah.
that would be conducive to maybe higher pieces of ground over there on the other side to entertain that type of activity.
And just so you know, I mean, this really, sometimes I like people to have the ability to focus on the one piece, but there is an awful lot of work that's already
Sure.
started. We've had, my office has convened meetings with the Mass DOT, with National Grid, to try to look at not just the whole larger scope of a potential bike network or walking path, but also we're also looking at how we can, potentially fund that and bring vision, like very similar to what we just did for the community center. Work with our engineering partners to help create real vision based on actual survey results. And so we're working with the DPW director to try to help provide some of that preliminary conceptual work that is going to help us not only build support locally, but more importantly, as we start to think about bigger funding, will help us with that. So there's a lot of different pieces. This is just one piece, very important piece, that helps us springboard.
So any other thoughts, comments? So this would require a 2/3 approval at town meeting, just noted. And the request is for the $95,000, again, coming from free cash. So let's say the gift was sizable, or the donation, then this money would just revert back to free cash. So it's there, the $95,000 is the ceiling or the high end, and obviously, the more successful we are in negotiation, the less money of that 95 would be spent, and that would go back into free cash. So, do I hear a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Article 11, see if the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund established by the vote taken under Article 13 of the July 25th, 2020 annual meeting as authorized by the Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 3/4 as amended to supplement the FY '23 budget as approved by the vote taken under Article 11 on the May 4, 2022 annual meeting and act thereon. Explanation, this is the 2022 annual meeting. The town voted the transfer $150,003 from the PED Access and Cable-Related Fund, which is funded by monies received from the town license agreement with Spectrum Charter Communications. Due to inflation, the appropriation of the annual town meeting does not cover the actual cost of capital equipment and staffing necessary to successfully operate the PEG program. There's no effect on the tax rate. This would be additional money coming from the fund. And the motion is to move that the sum of $30,000 be appropriated from the PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund to supplement the FY '23 budget as approved by a vote taken under Article 11 on the May 4, 2022 annual meeting. I think the annualized, and of course, when I say annualized, we have our fiscal year and their annual is different than the calendar year. It's about $170,000 that on an annual or 12-month cycle that we receive currently, and that fluctuates with users. More users, less users, more money, less money. But that's roughly the number. So we would be taking another $30,000 to augment. And I know that they're trying to re-establish over at the community center the studio that was all the equipment was removed from the former Access Oxford and reestablish a presence over there, and that's a one-time effort to get that done. Once that's done, and that studio's reestablished, and the equipment is repurchased or bought, new equipment, because the other equipment was removed, and an additional, bring another person on to help, because we're doing more.
Yes.
Again, going back to being more transparent, which everybody wants, more videoing and more accessibility for everybody to see these meetings and understand what's going on. So that requires people to operate the cameras, and so we're expanding the hours that are needed to do that. So that's where the 30,000's coming from, equipment and our additional help to cover the
Exactly. As you,
events and meetings.
as the committee knows, that this is now a service that falls within the discretion and oversight of the town, where before it was not. And so, yes, we are finding our way as we have been making large-scale capital improvements that allows us to capture much higher quality video. I do want to extend my deep appreciation on a Saturday morning, just for people to understand. We have Sam here, who's really, been somebody who has been a backbone for us, but still, we're dealing with part-time capacity and people's schedules and all of that. And but we're also producing many more educational videos and informational videos that require oftentimes more than one person. And so all of that is starting to be, considered by our production media coordinator, Kaylee Olson, who recognizes, particularly when we have conflicting meetings that we think are important to capture both of them, we have to make sure that, we have some kind of backup, because when people are ill, or just have some kind of emergency that they cannot, make the meeting, that would mean that we wouldn't be able to cover it. So
We just
this
did
is,
the,
this is
community
something,
center.
right,
And that, I think Mark just referenced that he saw
Yeah.
the community, he wasn't able to attend, but he saw the community center meeting.
Right.
That speaks to what we're talking about
right.
here.
And there were a number of people involved with that, because it's not like the gymnasium there is set up for audio and visual, and to actually give a nice quality, I mean, if you heard the echo in that building, but yet if you watch the video, completely different. So the quality that we're seeking is quite, much more advanced than what we had before, and that requires, adjustments. So this is no effect on the tax rate or anything. It's really coming from, the existing pool of money that we get from those licensing fees. And I think I want to be supportive of that department as much as possible in the name of trying to get more information and get the public more engaged. And I think we're definitely doing that with the types of coverage and the types of informative video productions that are being made. And I look forward to being able to do more of that, but that requires, manpower as well.
Manpower and equipment. And of course, the equipment's a one-time purchase. Once we reestablished some of the equipment that was removed and that needed to be updated, those requirements or those funds won't no longer be needed going forward. This is kind of like catching up and reestablishing a presence
Sure.
in some of the areas. Any questions or comments on this article? If none, do I hear a motion to recommend Article 11?
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map for the purposes of expanding the boundaries of the Village District, the VP zoning district along Sutton Ave to Interstate 395 by 50 feet along the northern and southern property lines of abutting Sutton Ave. Layout depicted as part of parcels E18, E19, E20, E20.01, E21, E22 on the Assessor's Map 34C, and the parcels B1, B2, B3, B4, C1, C34, C35, C51, C52, C55, and C56 on the Assessor's Map 35A, and the appropriate sum of money to supplement the town, wait a minute here, wait a minute.
No,
Turn
an
around
act
there.
thereon.
An act thereon, yeah,
There you go.
there we go.
Then there's the planning
Parcels
board.
C14 and P50 are described in the deeds recorded by the Worcester District Registry of Deeds, book number 35870, page 2896, and to raise by taxation, transfer from available funds the sum of money. What am I reading here?
It goes to the next page.
Yeah.
I think you jumped to the warrant, right? Not sure if it's what you were intending
It's
to do.
early here.
Well, there's no appropriation for this article.
There's
right?
no appropriation, and I think,
Adopting
Tony, you want to
expenses.
speak to this? Because I did see the planning board meeting, and there was some discussion with some of the people that were on Park Ave, but not abutters, but
Sure,
were
sure.
concerned about traffic and et cetera.
Certainly, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to talk about this. Article 12 simply, and it's consistent with the master plan, it's highlighted in the master plan considerations to extend the village business district along this important corridor, that being the intersection of Main and Sutton Avenue to 395. It's a simple extension, which what it does is it adds some more opportunities, some more flexibility for property owners that directly abut that corridor of Sutton Avenue. Should they wish to, for example, under the VB, the general business district, which is the current zoning, is not going away. It's still going to be there. We're going to split zone, which is why the 50 feet is very deliberate. Split zone those immediate parcels to give them the opportunity, if they want to go under the village business district, which a very nice use there that allows under VB is potential for residential. Here's what I've heard in the last 6-7 months or so. Property owners along that corridor, several have expressed interest to do some type of mixed use, which from a planner's perspective, I get excited to hear. And from the property owner's perspective, it's important to have that flexibility where they may have every intention of having a successful commercial business at ground level, absolutely. But to have that flexibility in their portfolio, to have a unit or two, let's say, above of residential to allow for that is tremendous. And so the village business district gives the property owner that flexibility. But there's also a very important safeguard too. And I think that's important to touch upon too, because it was brought up during the public hearing portion, concerns currently about traffic, for example. And now this zoning won't approve any project that's proposed or whatnot, that there are any right now. But what it would do through special permit, give the planning board that ability to review a project and to have some discretion, and certainly to put thoughtful conditions to better regulate how the site is operating from certainly a traffic perspective, from the aesthetics, right, from general layout. So I think it's very important to state that. And again, it's also important to state, because there are successful businesses along that corridor, that they still can fully take advantage of all the benefits of general business. But if they wish, they may also take advantage of the village business with that safeguard, that caveat of the planning board's discretion. No different than the zone change we did last time on Route 20, which we also split zone. There it was 75 feet to better accommodate the alignment there, but again, giving that flexibility for developers, for property owners, but also safeguard for the town.
So if a business wanted to put living quarters up above their business, that would allow that to happen, general business. So if I had a business on the first level, like, well, Dairy Express, which is on the corner of Sutton, which
Yeah.
they have apartments above, and so if I guess Honey Farms or wanted to put apartments above, but there is an apartment across the street that already is residential, I think, brick building. I think Danny Robbins at one time owned that building.
Okay.
It's on the corner of Sutton and Park. Then there's a plumbing supply, and then there's that vacant, almost like a strip shopping, a little mall in the back.
25 Sutton Avenue.
25 Sutton Ave, they could put living spaces above and have commercial below.
Correct.
So they're not, it's either or, in the sense that all you're allowing by this is if they were to choose, they could put residential in addition, mixed use, is it in addition to their commercial on the first
Correct,
level.
correct, because otherwise currently under general business,
They couldn't.
they are not allowed to do that, other than one accessory apartment, let us say. But that's
And would they
Small.
still have to come to the planning board for parking?
Yes.
So in other words, because that's usually the issue. Okay, and now I'm putting residential above, now I have my customers down below, how much that would augment. So that, there's nothing that we're giving, there's not open-ended, that they still don't have to come to the planning. This is just to give them an opportunity to come before the planning board.
Exactly.
It doesn't automatically grant them what
Correct.
they're proposing.
Correct, because we've looked at other ways too, both planning board and staff, including the building commissioner. What other opportunities, what other tools could we use? And use variances are not allowed in town. I'm not advocating for or against it, but they're not allowed. So it puts a certain predicament on the property owners that wish to, again, from a planner's perspective, some of this type of mixed use, I really do get excited about that, and something that we should encourage. And it makes sense. That's why it was in the master plan indeed, and here's an opportunity that we can help those property owners, because we have seen some vacancy there, certainly in the last year, some serious vacancy, 3 or 4 properties along that stretch. And this hopefully, at no cost, will help improve that situation.
And the planning board, I think, voted to recommend this.
Yes.
Do we want to make a recommendation or defer to the planning board? I'll leave that open to the committee to discuss.
I'm thinking we should defer to the planning board on this one, since there's no immediate financial impact.
Any thoughts, John, Mark?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think it's a good idea.
All right. So do I hear a motion to defer to the planning board?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll defer that article to the planning board. Article 12. Article 13, another amendment to the Oxford zoning bylaw by deleting section 3.9 of chapter 3, the regulations in its entirety, and replacing with the following new section. This is 3.1 apartments and additional living space, and I'm not going to read all of this, but it has to do with, I'll let Tony speak to it. And again, I think the planning board did recommend this as well. Article
Yes.
13 at their meeting. You
Yes.
want to explain some of this to us?
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, again for the opportunity just to explain and share with you. The planning board voted favorably on this. This was another item that we were looking at very closely with respect to in-law apartments in the community. And one of the things that we've noticed, particularly in the last 2 years, we've gotten about a dozen or so applications, and time and money it takes on both sides. Applications whereas the project is all interior, let's say, and a family decides to have another family member to join the household, whether it be to take better care of them, or whatever unfortunate circumstance may be, or whatever the need may be. Applicants currently are required to file for a special permit, and this is what we would say, as from the building side and the planning side, simply adding additional living space within the confines of your home. We're not saying this is going to allow for an addition without the need of following a process. This is simply conversions of, let's say, basements or attics if
So
appropriate.
it's
and so
within
on.
the envelope of the current
Correct.
structure.
Correct.
You can't add an upstairs or
Correct.
a wing. It has
Correct.
to be within the envelope of the current structure.
And under that circumstance, it does not require a special permit through the planning board. You must certainly, of course, pull the proper
building
permits, of course. But with respect to having an applicant to go before the planning board, which, no criticism, but there is a formal process under special permit that we have to follow through state law to advertise, to notify the abutters and so on. You're talking about 2-3 months of process, let alone also the cost to develop plans specific for the planning board for their initial review. This is prior to developing any plans required, which are required, of the building department. So this as an opportunity to streamline process and help folks join together with their family members, caretakers, whatnot. And so this would be a tremendous benefit for the community. Now, for those that are watching and that are still interested in doing additions for the traditional in-law apartment, yes, we have indeed the process for that, which is the process I outlined for a special permit.
You need to go
But-
special permit to put an upstairs or a wing.
Yes,
This is only, so if I wanted to take my lower level and turn it into an in-law apartment, I would still get a building permit to do the construction in my downstairs lower level. I would have to make sure there's egress for fire.
Correct.
I would have to pull a electrical and a plumbing permit. So I'd have to do all those things, but my structure, from an outward standpoint, wouldn't show any activity. It would all be internal. My yard setbacks, my fronts, all that, nothing that would change. So it'd be my lower level. I'd pull the building permit, pull the electrical permit, pull the plumbing permit, make sure that I have egress for the in-law apartment at my lower level. And I would follow all those, but I wouldn't need a special permit. I would not need to go through and all the, notify the abutters and all those things.
Right.
That's, this is what this would allow
Yes.
that to happen.
Yes.
Within those confines. Okay. I think I understand it. Any comments or thoughts on what we're talking about here? And what the impact would be? It would just really take some of the process on both sides of the coin off the table. Since it's,
Mr. Chairman, the one thing that, in speaking for the building department and the assessor's department, none of the existing processes we have really changes. And so, if people want to do this and won't be discouraged by having to go for a special permit, it actually helps the family potentially for in-laws and accommodations for those that may be seeking to live with a family member. So that part is very beneficial to property owners. For the town, the normal processes we already have in place where the building department gets those permits and has to, provide the oversight and inspections and obtains the fees that go along with all of that. Then the assessor's department also gets wind of how these improvements are being made. So the values of those homes are accurately reflected. And so in general, it's a win for those people who are looking to expeditiously accommodate living space in their home. But it also helps the community, the municipality in particular, to know these changes have been made so that people aren't trying to subvert that process. They'll be much more open in understanding that this is just a normal building permit and assessor capturing process that we would do. And of course, that helps the town too, overall, when we accurately reflect valuation and eventually collect based on our existing tax structure. So that's all good,
there's no
win-win.
split utilities or anything of that nature, so there's only one electric meter. It's the one residence, even though there's a lower level. There's
Correct, because this would fall under the building code, additional living space. With in-law apartments, there is separation, but.
Yeah, an in-law apartment, you would have separate utilities and everything. That's where you put your addition on or your wing. This is not. This is in that one envelope, so you're just enhancing your envelope in the lower level.
Exactly.
But you're still pulling your permits, you're still going through that. You just don't have that special permit and all the costs related on both the town side or your side to get that done. It's less
Exactly.
onerous.
And, when talking to the applicants, but property owners behind the counter, time is of essence for these
There's usually a need,
opportunities.
right?
So when you tell someone it's gonna take 2-3 months,
Special permit.
Can
not
be
a
devastating.
criticism, but it's the process, right? And it can be devastating, because the whole goal is to, right, promote
Expedite.
independent living.
Any thoughts, comments, or questions on this article?
Is there an estimate on the numbers that we see for these types of currently?
Well, I can say certainly for the last 2 years, for this particular type, we've got about 7 or 8 applications that and the board has approved all of them. May have put conditions from time to time on them, but we also do believe that, while it hasn't slowed down, we continue to get applications. This fall, I think we've had 3 or 4 now, just for.
Parking is usually the issue, and I think we allow for access 1 parking space for the addition, wasn't that what it is?
For
It's
the-
not 2 off-street.
For the traditional in-law,
Yeah.
there is language in here pertaining to just simply 1 parking space for the in-law.
additional in-law.
With respect to, and truth be told, there is no real need, when we're talking about the in-law apartment or even the additional living space, this traditional requirement of 2 parking spaces, it just doesn't make sense. Certainly for the main unit, if you will, of the property, 2 parking spaces, it very well makes sense. But when traditionally we see with in-law apartments or this additional living space scenario, 1 parking space is more than enough.
So with the number of applicants for these types of additional living spaces, it seems like it would be a nominal cost as far as the reduction in special permits. I'm not sure how much those are, the special permits, but just thinking about
Yeah,
receipts.
yeah, when we're talking about the application itself, doing the mailer, and certainly for the property owner to prepare the plans, so you're talking about a couple of $100 there. And I'm really being conservative, because
Right.
if someone brings in an architect, then you're talking a couple of thousand.
Some people are usually challenged in filling out and providing all the particulars. They need to bring in an expert, and that's an added cost and an added delay in time.
Yeah, and we've, additions are different because those, you're putting
Yeah, you
foundation
do.
in and so on. But when we're looking at a basement renovation, even a basic sketch, we really do try to accommodate folks when it comes to that level of review. A basic sketch, general layout, so we just get an understanding. And we can then take that information and allay it with the assessor's information and so on, so we get a very clear picture. So that's, yeah, we could go in for a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand, depending.
Any other thoughts, comments on this article? So, again, do I hear a motion either, I know the planning board has recommended this article. Do we want to defer to the planning board or recommend it?
I mean, my take is defer, but
Okay.
everybody else feels.
Rena, Mark, what are your thoughts? Defer?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
All right, do I hear a motion to defer
I
this
make a
article to the
motion.
planning board? Second?
Defer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries unanimously. That concludes the review and the recommendations of the warrant, articles on the warrant. I think the next item on the agenda is the upcoming meeting. We're going to meet prior to the Wednesday's meeting coming up, October the 5th at 6. We're at the middle school cafeteria. It's not the high school. I want to make note. It's the middle school, and we'll be meeting in the cafeteria prior to the meeting to review these, approve these minutes of today's meeting, and then talk about capital. We'll be meeting sometime in November to start capital requests from various departments. That being said, there's nothing else on our agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting's adjourned.